Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Drew Thomas Hendricks here. I'm the host of the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where I talk with leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry, from tech companies that enable wineries to run at optimum efficiency, to today's guest, Bianca Harmon, who works with wineries to increase their direct-to-consumer sales. Past guests of Legends Behind the Craft include Daniel Dow of Dow Vineyards, Joe Wagner of Copper Cane Wine and Provisions, and Michael Houlihan, founder of Barefoot Wines. If you haven't listened to these yet, be sure to check them out and subscribe. Today's episode, it's sponsored by Barrels Ahead. At Barrels Ahead, we work with you to implement a one-of-a-kind marketing strategy, one that highlights your authenticity, tells your story, and connects you with your ideal customers. In short, we help wineries and craft beverage producers unlock their story to unleash their revenue. Go to barrelsahead.com today to learn more. I am super excited to talk today with Bianca Harmon. Bianca is a DTC strategist for Barrels Ahead. And Bianca grew up in Napa Valley and has been involved in all aspects of the industry since an early age. Welcome to the show, Bianca.
Hi, Drew. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. This is a first for us. Usually I'm interviewing guests that are in other companies. It's kind of a treat to interview someone that I work with every day.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So tell us, you've been at Barrels Ahead for a few months now, doing helping us with our D2C strategies and working with wineries to increase revenue. Tell us a little bit about how you got to this position from growing up in Napa.
I've worked in all aspects of the winery, starting with something as simple as even just a deli or the marketplace to the tasting room to wine club. And then I led to working phone sales over the phone selling wine, which I think all aspects of what I'm currently doing now kind of tie into this one position. And I'm super stoked for what I'm doing now. I love it. I'm being able to still work with customers, but also try to transition customers into the future, the 2022, and show off their product.
Sure. So doing phone sales, that's not for the faint of heart. You're working with another marketing firm, helping wineries with their outreach for their club members and selling wines directly through the phone. Tell me, what was the how did you stay motivated doing that?
When you would get the good customers that wanted to have a conversation and really excited about the product and buying wine, that was how you would to stay motivated, because you would have days where it was fairly low, but those high points were high enough to where it kind of carried you through the rest of the week or the month.
Yeah, and you had a lot of success in doing that. I know you won a few awards on for sales goals.
Yeah. No, I did really well. I had some really great repeat customers. I even had people calling me for wine regularly. So just building up that relationship with them and never meeting them over the phone, just being very personable and like we were standing right in front of each other in the tasting room.
That's a key point. You talk about being personable and standing in front of each other. What tips would you have someone that's maybe working at a tasting room and being told that get on the phone, call the club members this month?
I did that too. Actually, it's at Vista Tui when it was slow time of year. We were kind of thrown wherever in the winery. And at first it's very like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really boring. This is going to be terrible. I'm so used to talking and dealing with people. And once you get in the swing of it, I will say it's really not as bad. Luckily, you're calling up people that have, they've bought from the winery before. You're not cold calling somebody that's never been there, doesn't know anything about your product. These are all pretty much, for the most part, wine drinkers. And just do it and treat it like you would if they were standing in front of you, and go through your list and make the best of it, honestly.
Yeah. What's one of the do you have any good stories about phone sales and some of the conversations you've had?
I mean, I've had some great conversations. I don't know. I had a lot of people tell me that they really liked my voice. So that was always a seller. They would just, I like your voice and I feel like I can talk to you about anything. Great. That's what I'm here for.
Did they ever try to talk to you about anything?
Oh yeah. One time I had a lady on the phone with me for like an hour, and I knew her life story. I knew, all of her children. I knew everything. And then she would just call me randomly to check in, see how my life and my family was doing. You actually can build a pretty good reputation with some of these people and not ever meet them face to face.
That's amazing. Did she end up buying wine or?
Oh yeah, she would buy wine from me regularly. And she would even I can remember one time just the carpet guy's here. Bianca, I gotta go. I'll call you right back as soon as the carpet people leave. And sure enough, she called me back.
That's awesome. I think you hit the nail on the head. There is established rapport. Don't just treat it as a sales call. It's not just a transaction, because as you're reaching out to the wineries, you're reaching out as a custodian of that whole brand and that whole messaging. And you need to sound like you would, just like you said, in the tasting room, and create that rapport. Because in addition, I think the one thing that a lot of people the mistake a lot of people make when they're told that you got to go, I hate to say the word, dial for dollars, sell the wine, push the wine. Selling the wine is almost secondary, I think, sometimes, to the fact that this is a golden chance for outreach to just basically reach out on behalf of the winery and see if they want to buy wine. And make it more of an outreach call and more of a communicative call rather than.
No, I agree. And I mean, because a lot of the times too, believe it or not, you're calling people, especially on some of the wineries that I was calling for. These are big company-owned wineries, and they can get lost in translation. And they could be upset. They've been trying to call the wine club department and they can't get through. And you kind of end up being that person where they've now lost all their faith in this winery. And I've salvaged plenty of relationships by following through with this customer, helping them get what they need. And then they're coming back to me and now buying wine because, if you can really be that person for them, sometimes people just want somebody to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And if you're willing to just sit there and listen to them and then try to help them as much as you can, it's pretty rewarding in the end.
Oh, I firmly believe that. I sold in my earlier career. I sold wine over the phone and wine in person at a wine store in San Francisco. And it really, the one thing was it's that personal outreach that allows you to get that litmus test of how happy is that customer, how engaged are they? Because you can't always tell. Too often now, and you and I, we were both at the we weren't at the Direct Consumer Wine Symposium. We were at the Win Expo. We were at the Win Expo, and the biggest, I guess the newest old word that's emerged in wine marketing is omni-channel, where you've got to reach the customers where they are, where they want to be reached. But much of the focus that I see is on email, it's on text messaging, it's on targeting on the internet, and there's the phone. But the phone seems to oftentimes be downplayed, whereas the phone is the one chance that you have to actually hear the tone of the person's voice, gauge their enthusiasm, and actually be able to respond instantly, human to human.
Yeah, I agree 100% because, you have a phone, you know how many calls you're getting randomly from telemarketers or this or that. And so people have just turned away thinking that they're going to immediately think they're a telemarketer or they're this. But in the end, if you can actually get that real life person on the phone, it goes a lot farther than you believe sometimes. And there's so many people that just want to resort to text messaging now or just emails. And I'm a true believer in the person-to-person interaction is always going to get you the farthest.
Oh, for sure. Text messaging, don't get me wrong, it serves a valuable purpose because people can choose their preferred method of communication. But if you allow everyone to always just choose text messaging or email versus voice, you just basically reduce yourself to whatever transactional customization you can do. And it's very hard. You're fighting an uphill battle to get that human touch.
Yep.
And it's too easy. I think one of the biggest call avoidance rationalizations is that people get too many voicemails, people get too many phone calls, and it's all, the running joke is that you don't want your winery to sound like that extended car insurance voicemail that we always seem to get. But it's really easy to not sound like that by leaving an actual human voicemail. You need to actually hear in that.
I agree. And then that's why, there are protocols in place too. You're not calling these people. I mean, for example, like my list, if I had just called this lady last month, unless I knew that there was something she wanted to buy, I wasn't going to call her and just blow her up for no reason. I know what this customer likes. Now, if it's somebody I haven't called, then they kind of stay on that monthly call log, but you're only calling them, 3 times max. So for a specific sale. And it works. I mean, obviously it works, or they wouldn't be doing it anymore if it didn't. So
absolutely. Now I see, like, you may take like the three call sequence. I see a lot of talking about some of the mistakes that I see wineries making all the time, and you see it. You're in the trenches every day talking with wineries. One of the biggest mistakes I see them making is automation incorrectly. Because it's too easy when you start to automate and start to customize through automation to have a very transactional type of automation, such as your abandon the cart message, such as your that birthday message. Those are all great, but it tends to look a little robotic. Yeah. What other mistakes do you see wineries making right now?
I don't know. There's a lot. I don't think there is as much person-to-person interaction as there used to be. I think that there's also, a lot of wineries that they think that because they've been around for so many years and they have this great product, that they're forever going to have this great product. And times are changing, and you have to change your winery with the times. We're coming into a whole new generation, and unfortunately, this new generation is all about the technology. But I still think when they come out here, they want, a real person. They want to be able to pull up a nice website. They want the in-between aspects of it. And so I think a lot of what I'm seeing is some wineries just being too stuck in their ways of not willing to change. And it doesn't need to go as far as that robotic message, or, hey, you forgot items in your cart. It doesn't need to go that far. But even just something simple is, you can pull up a website and it's like, oh, wow, this place looks fun. This place looks intriguing. I want to come here. I've seen a lot of wineries these days, as much as we hate it, they're all doing this frosé, and they're having like a frosé party, but you know what? It gets people in the door. It gets these younger people. And so at some point you have to kind of change a little bit, I feel. You don't have to go one spectrum or the other, but times are changing, and wineries have to learn to adapt with it, or they're going to get brushed under a rug, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
I like what you said there about the frosé, because you've got to, at the end of the day, you need to give the consumer what the consumer wants. And a lot of times when you're visiting a winery, especially in the summer, it's going to be about 98 degrees.
Right.
And with a group, and I go to a lot of wineries, when you're with a group, you may go with six people. Not a whole like party crew, but six people might go on a vacation together, or even 4. And of the 4, maybe 2 are wine drinkers, and the other 2 really aren't. And you've got to have something for them to have fun, and something that they might like to drink.
Yeah, you do. You do. And that's where it's like, I mean, and if you can be that winery that offers that to somebody, I mean, word of mouth alone that you're going to get from that is going to be fantastic.
And rosés aren't for every winery or every situation, but there is.
Right. It was just an example.
Yeah, it's one of those adaptabilities. And that ties into one of the things that we talk about and we do all the time is that helping wineries with their story and conveying their story online and through all their digital expressions. But the one thing that we do that goes beyond what a lot of agencies do is the story has to also include the customer's story. Because in order when someone visits the winery, they're visiting a winery or they're buying a wine to experience not just the story on the back of the label or the story on the website, but they're visiting it to fulfill their own story. So as far as wineries, they've got to start to look at who are their customers and what kind of stories are those customers looking to enact.
Yeah, I 100% agree because, even as somebody that worked in the tasting room side, it's so nice and fulfilling when people come in and they're there because, they heard about, Vista Tui, they heard about Tank, but you're now making that memorable for them. You are to where I, to this day, have customers reach out and they're opening a bottle of wine that I sold them, 5 years ago. And they're like, thinking of you. And that's what you want. And that's what you get into. Get into it for as an employee side of things to be that person that they remember. Because yes, you want the story of the winery to be told, but you want the staff, you want your customers to remember more than just the winery story and be able to tell these stories to their friends. And that's how you build even more clientele.
Absolutely. One of the things I always did was I had a very good memory for who I sold wine to. And when I saw them again, I'd ask them how the wine was. What did they serve with it? What event was it? And I'd love to get the full circle, not the full circle story of you see so much wine go out the door and you never really hear about how it was served, how they liked it. They may rebuy it and they say, they liked it. But it's that part of the story that I feel that a lot of wineries are missing out on. They see this one-sided push the wine out, and they don't really come back and see how that wine's impacting their customers.
I agree. And that's where even something as simple as social media has come into play with things is customers are now uploading their bottle while they're drinking it and they're tagging wineries like, thanks for this. We just enjoyed this meal with some great friends and your wine made it even better, and which is kind of a cool aspect. And wineries can then share, hey, look at this. This is what they paired it with tonight or drink it with. And it's great for that side of things.
Yeah. And I belong to about a half dozen, about six, we usually belong to about 6 or 7 wine clubs. And the one thing, and I'm always amazed, and none of these wine clubs are our customers. Otherwise I'd tell them they should be fixing their phone script. But not one time did anybody ever ask me how I liked my last shipment.
Wow. Seriously?
They just ask me what wines I want to, if I want to add something to it, or if I want to change the shipping address, but they never really asked, what did I think of the last shipment?
Oh my gosh. That's so ironic. That kind of blows my mind because when I worked at Satui, we did monthly shipments. So that one is a little bit harder to each, and there's like 6 different clubs. But like Tank, even for example, was like, oh my gosh, what did you think? I loved that wine. What did you guys think of it? And because that's the most important part is the customer's thought, and to just ask, that's where the personability and just really getting to know your people comes into play.
What are some of the other questions that you like to ask? Or like to ask?
Let's see. I don't know. It all depends on the customer. Each customer is different. I kind of read them. Some customers we've bonded over sports and it's led to other things. When it comes to the wine side, I really like to know what kind of foods they like to eat. If they're big steak, eaters, or if they're just like, hey, we really just are kind of casual wine drinkers. So I like to know that. And also I like I really like to know, one of my favorites is when people tell me that they're not, when I start off and I'm like, okay, well, which white do you want to start with? Oh, I don't drink whites. And that's one of my favorites because it's like, no, you're just not drinking the right whites then, because
No, I swear you're going to love it.
I swear you're going to love it.
Take the challenge.
And so that's always been kind of one of my favorites, is getting these people in here that are like, all I drink is reds. And it's like, no, just, you're not drinking the right ones. Let's try some. And heck, I won't even count it against your tasting. I just want you to try it, because I promise you're just not drinking the right ones. So it's probably one of my favorites to ask, because that happens very regularly out in Napa. And then even the people that talk about they don't like sweet wines, which, I'm not a sweet wine drinker either. But when they think of sweet wines, they're instantly thinking of Moscato or Muscat. And there's amazing ports. And that's when I'm like, do you smoke cigars? You look like a smart cigar. I do. I love cigars.
You smell like a cigar.
Then you need to be drinking some port. Just try this. And they take a sip and they're like, oh my God, you're right. This is delicious. This would go great with my cigar, or this would go great with my chocolate brownie at night,
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, as we're kind of moving out of the direct-to-consumer tasting room and into the kind of the technological side of the things, that's where you kind of shifted your focus. And I know we have a lot of, we talk quite a bit about, we're constantly amazed at some of the mistakes wineries are making with their websites. Now, I know you've probably looked at a couple hundred websites over the last 2 months or 3 months. There's just a running mistake that all these wineries are making with their just search engine optimization.
Yeah. I mean, they've invested in these websites. Who knows how much, anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000. And they've got this beautiful
couple hundred thousand for larger wineries.
Exactly. And then you go and you look at their search optimization, and they're generating nothing off of it. They're not showing up anywhere. And at the end of the day, if you're going to invest in a great site, it's not going to do you any good if your name is not out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, somebody like us can come into play, and it can be minor tweaks just in your story, just changing little wordings throughout that'll start hitting more. But it's a little mind-blowing, actually, how many sites I've looked at that I'm like, wow, this is a great site. And then I look at their search engine optimization and they're generating $2,
Yeah. And to unpack that a bit there, they're generating $2, which is the traffic that would have been the equivalent of if they had done a paid ad. Now,
Right.
A lot of wineries, the biggest objection we usually see is that they don't really need any new business. They don't really need people to find, because people will just go directly to their site. But they're missing out on a valuable aspect of their story, in that when their site does come up on like a Google search or a Bing search, there's a description field there that describes what the winery is, or describes what that page is. And the one thing that you and I both see all the time is that they've invested in this great platform, this great online e-commerce, but they fail to fill out the stuff that's right behind this. They fail to fill out the stuff that the search engines actually see, such as the meta description, which is what shows up right below the page title. And if you don't fill it out, what happens is the search engines just do their best to pull something from the page. So you can imagine if someone's typing in wine tours Paso Robles, and your winery comes up, but you don't have the proper description up, you're missing out on that one chance to tell your story in the way that you want it to be told. In a sense, then you're surrendering this valuable piece of real estate to someone else to decide what should be there. And it's such a low friction. It's such an easy solution that they don't need any technical ability, because they already have the ability to update the products on their site. They just need to go that one extra step and add a proper meta description, which is only about 150 characters long.
Right. And because I think everybody thinks that when you talk about search engine optimization, that it has to be money that you're investing in Google ads or paid ads in general, when a lot of it can be done through your site by your description, your headings, your robots.
Or it seems super technical and something that a professional, and we do it. We're professional. And as I say, it's easy to get 80% of the way there. It takes a lot of work to get that final 20%. But the problem is most wineries about 50% of the way there. So they're leaving just a very easy 30% on the table.
Yep.
I would say that's the biggest mistake I see.
It's definitely 100% been the biggest mistake I've seen, especially because a lot of these e-com platforms are offering, websites with it. So they're getting that product, they're getting their website. So they're nice websites. They look good. And then they're not utilizing them to the full capacity and capability. And it's honestly a shame because, you don't want to invest in this really expensive car that can drive itself. It can pump gas. It could do whatever. And then you're only getting like 80% of it. Oh, I don't know how this works. So I'm not using it.
So you're just driving in the slow lane.
You're just Yep.
Yeah, I know that. We see that it's actually become we've become a little passionate about that because it's like, you got a flashy site, but it doesn't have the right stuff in the engine.
Yep.
Going forward with sites, what is some of the sites that you see? What are the sites that really pop out for you right now that are really resonating, and you really see that the winery's aligned with it, the website's aligned with its brand?
I really think this story has a lot to do with it. I've been going to a lot of sites lately that don't even have an About Us page, which to me kind of is like, what do you mean? These people, they want to know, it goes back to where we were talking about. It's not just the winery's story. There's obviously more to the story, but we want to know their story and we don't know anything about it. So that's kind of been one for me is really just, there's no story and then what was the question again?
Well, the question is like, what are those sites that are not sites in specific, but the aspect of the site? And you did that on the not having a proper About Us.
Not About Us. And then also just, which is silly, but it could be done so easily, is when you have these just these bottle shots, and there's this now great platform you can use for your bottle shots, and it's like the wineries have gone in themselves and taken these pictures, and they're blurry and you can't read them. And it's like,
gone are the days that you should be taking pictures of the actual bottle. We work a lot with Outshinery. If you're looking for some great bottle shots, go to Outshinery. They can overlay the bottle shots into every scene that you want. And you'd be surprised at how cost effective it is. You don't need to have a full camera crew out there, and that can just increase the whole website experience for sure.
Yeah, very visual. When you go to the shop page and the wine bottle photos are blurred, or they're obviously hand taken and they're sitting on top of a tasting room bar, it's like, that's not what I want to see. So the visual side of things, is really important. And I'm really into just honestly the more classic, simple sites. You don't have to have crazy videos. You don't have to have all of that. But if you can just have your story and your wine bottles and everything in line with the winery, it's way more appealing than some crazy drone photo when you're coming onto their homepage.
Drone photos are cool and they make great background images, but a little too dependent on video. And as long as we're explaining or we're talking about our biggest pet peeves, which sounds like we're kind of doing, one of the biggest ones I have, and it's been throughout my career as an agency owner, don't put anything coming soon on your site. Because Back in the day, you had that under construction where the guy's like digging a hole on a computer screen.
Yes.
Too often coming soon is coming never, and the coming soon is up there for years. And the very worst is if you're trying to do ADA compliance, don't put we're working on it, it's coming soon. It takes about 2 minutes to set that up.
Yes.
You're probably better off being un-ADA compliant than having something on the whole top of your screen saying, we're working on it. If you're having trouble with our site, please give us a call. So try to hold, if you're a winery and you're doing it yourself, you've rolled up your sleeves, don't just leave the page unpublished. Don't put a page up there saying coming soon. And the other thing is set a timer for your events. No one wants to see tickets for an event that was 2 months ago.
Right. Because they get excited. They think, oh man, look at this event coming up. And then they go, oh, shoot, that event was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. So many sites we go to, you look at their event page and it doesn't even say that it's passed because they aren't using an event plugin. It's just a normal page, but they forget to take it down. And there is systems in place that you can unpublish an event or mark it as passed. So those are two things that I see all the time on wineries. And it starts to look, then what you get there when you have an under construction or you have a coming soon or you have an event page that just shows past events, as it starts to paint an impression in the customer's mind that maybe the winery is just as discombobulated.
Agreed.
Are they going to just get around to bottling their wine? Which is actually kind of good. Maybe coming soon works for wineries because longer it ages, it's going to be better. That doesn't work for websites.
Right. Nope. I agree. It's better to have some of my favorite sites I've come across while doing this have been the more simple sites, but they're all in line. It's in tune. The text is readable. And, like you said, I love those videos. I love those drones and I'm all about adding them in, but make sure that everything else is in line with that product, with your homepage.
Mm-hmm. So as we're kind of wrapping down here and we're talking about wineries and what's not working, and we've talked about some sites that are working, and we've talked about some phone sales. What's one winery, and I know we both have the idea of it, what's one winery that you really see is on the mark right now that's resonating with their target audience?
Well, I think we've talked about this one before, is probably the Tank Garage Winery. They're really...
And you used to work there.
I used to work there. And
what can wineries learn from Tank Garage?
They're really changing and going with the times. And they have something for everybody. They make it fun, they make it hip, but they don't gear it just towards the young, what are they now? Gen Z, Gen X?
Well, Gen X would be me.
Oh, no, Gen Z. The Gen Z. Anyways, yeah, they've really made it fun and their labels are cool. Mm-hmm. You can always look forward to new wines coming out, which is really fun and intriguing. People, that's another conversation starter on its own. Oh man, so what's new in this shipment? Because it's always new. Mm-hmm. It's always changing. And they've just done a really good job of sticking to that too. That this is how we started, and they've continued down that. They haven't suckered into just keeping all the same wines every time. And they're just really keeping people on their toes, and they've got their artwork on their labels is great. Mm-hmm. They've just done a really great job.
Do you feel that they've picked an authentic past and an authentic kind of position, and then the customers have just identified with it? Or have they kind of recreated a persona that is targeted to different customers?
I think they've recreated a persona that's targeted to different customers, personally, because they have each label has a story too. Mm-hmm. And some of these stories go back to, prohibition times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something gauging towards every age group, towards every person, and it really gets you in.
And that kind of ties full circle to what we were talking about, the story, where too many wineries talk about the small family-owned vineyard, and you see the husband, wife, and their 2 kids walking through the vineyard, living out their dream. And that by virtue, they kind of hope that people will attach to that dream. Whereas I see Tank Garage has taken that one step further, or has taken it one step further and actually helped its consumers realize their dream and realize their story.
It's exactly right. When you go to their site, it's not look at my wife, look at my kids, look at my vineyard. You go and it's look at this cool product that we have, and we want to share with you. And they like to cuss a lot, which, that always gets some people in. And then they have their about us, they have their story, which then people are more intrigued to see, because they're like, who are these people that are creating such a cool product? I want to know more about them. But they're not selling their wine based on themselves. They're selling their wine on their product and what the family has come up with.
And that's some of the things that that's what we do when we help wineries with their story. And it may, in the tank method may not fit everyone, but there's a portion of it that I think all wineries need to be looking at, and is look at your customer. And it goes beyond just the fancy labels. There's other ways that you can help bring your winery in line with your ideal customers' stories and their wants and needs. Could be through philanthropy, picking a charitable cause where a portion of the revenue goes to that charity. Suddenly you're aligned with those customers, and they know, but by working and drinking your wine, that they're kind of helping a mutual cause.
Yep.
What are some other ways that you see wineries that they can align themselves with the customer story?
I don't know. I think maybe more, even something as simple as more customer engagement with their customers, actually listening and hearing what customers want. At the end of the day, you don't have to do with it anything. It goes back to what I said about people just want to be heard. But, there was a winery, I can't remember which one, but they did a cool thing where they did like customer shout outs, even it was just like on Instagram or Facebook. But hey, like, this is our customer of the week or the month, and they talked about this wine and why they liked it. And then it just makes people feel like kind of giddy and excited inside, like, wow, they do really care about me. And it doesn't even have to go as far as that, but just really listening to what your consumers want. And sometimes, as much as we hate it, you do it. Vista Tui is always, I worked there as well, and so that's why I can speak about it. But Vista Tui has always been great about, they have something for everybody. And that's why people go there. No matter what you drink, no matter what you like, there's something for everybody there.
And that's important for a large winery to have something for everybody. But it's also important to kind of figure out who your audience is.
Right.
And I talk a lot, and I think the beer industry has done a much better job at this than wine. Wine is kind of, we've built our vineyard, it's about the land, it's about the place, and you come here. Whereas if you look at the microbreweries, there's kind of I live down in Southern California, and the Hop Highway right on the 78, Stone's just up the hill from us. And there's probably about 48 microbreweries around me. And there's one for everybody. There's the you've got the surfer winery, Helia, where all the surfers go. You've got Epig that is really into their Japanese lagers. You've got Dogleg Brewery. You've
got Ballast Point, right?
In that Ballast Point, bought by that. Dogleg, which appeals to golfers. There's another one that just deals with the Dungeon and Dragon gaming community, and you can sit on a Game of Thrones type throne as you're drinking your beer. But what it does is it draws in that audience, and then when people go there, you're helping them with their story, and they feel like they belong.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it even takes back to like something we've talked about is, even these breweries are now getting in the seltzer world. They're gearing their audience towards what's popular.
Mm-hmm. Popular and also picking their ideal customer profile. So when you're not selling wine and helping wineries sell wine, what type of wine are you drinking these days?
To be honest, I drink a lot of, I used to be a big heavy red drinker, and I drink a lot of just Sauvignon Blanc and Rosé because, I don't like waking up in the morning anymore with red all over my lips. And,
What's your favorite Sauvignon Blanc right now?
My favorite Sauvignon Blanc right now would be it's from this winery. It's called, I don't feel like I ever pronounce it right, but it's Nund in Santa Rosa area, Healdsburg. It's not expensive, but it's really good, easy to drink. So I really, really like their Sauvignon Blanc, and can never really go wrong with a Honig Sauvignon Blanc.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, Bianca, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find out more about you?
If they call me at Barrel's Head. No. Yeah, through Barrels Ahead. Honestly, if you want to know more, get in touch with me at Barrels Ahead, and I'll help you with your direct-to-consumer strategy.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Bianca.
All right. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.